Deep in my heart, I do believe that Americans want their fellow citizens to be able to vote.
A landmark Supreme Court decision upheld today in the name of equal voting rights. Reaction from an influential Texas family on continuing the fight.
And Governor Abbott signing off on border security today. The new efforts
Senate Bill
on the water
is now
to keep people from trying to come into the state.
And thunderstorms winding down, but a heat wave is looming. Your first warning forecast is coming up.
This afternoon, Governor Greg Abbott signed 6 different bills in an effort to bolster border security. Thank you for joining us tonight at 5. I'm Britt Moreno.
I'm Daniel Marin. Leaders also announced a new effort starting next month with a hefty price tag designed to deter migrants from crossing the Rio Grande. Our Monica Madden looks into how it would work.
Every day, migrants make the dangerous trek of trying to cross the Rio Grande into the United States. Many die trying.
Breaking news.
It's one reason why Texas will soon roll out these buoys in the Rio Grande.
It's dangerous. Family units that come across the river, we don't want anybody to get hurt. In fact, we want to prevent people from getting hurt, prevent people from drowning.
This session, lawmakers set aside more than $5 billion toward border security. And the Texas Department of Public Safety says 1,000 feet of these buoys cost a little under $1 million.
It depends on how much more is going to be acquired over time. And that'll be based upon the threat and what we're able to do.
There's about 5,000 feet in a mile, so 1 mile of these buoys would cost Texas around $5 million.
We can put mile after mile after mile of these buoys.
What you see here is just another iteration, another tool. The Texas military, they can deploy it quickly right at the river to deter them from even risking themselves coming across.
DPS Director Stephen McCross says they are all mobile and are about 4 to 6 feet tall depending on the water. The buoys come as Texas's latest strategy of using physical barriers like razor wire and the border wall itself, all in attempts of deterring migrants from crossing illegally.
Texas is no longer ground zero for this crisis. Texas is a stronghold.
The first wall of buoys goes up in July. Monica Madden, KXAN News.
And the first 1,000 feet of buoys will go up in Eagle Pass. Now, most of the bills signed into law today weren't about physical infrastructure. You can read more about them on our website at KXAN.com.
Going in depth, this special session, lawmakers are considering more border security bills. The Senate passed 3 on Wednesday, one that would create a border police force, another to make it a state crime to cross the Texas-Mexico border illegally, and the third to raise the minimum punishment for people convicted of smuggling migrants. All 3 have little chance of becoming law because the House adjourned last week after passing a different version of the anti-smuggling bill. So unless the House convenes again, the bills can't go to the governor's desk.
Well, to the weather now, and as of today, El Nino has officially arrived, and it could be a strong one later this year.
Now, El Nino typically brings cold, wet winters to the southern U.S., including right here in Texas. And of course, right now we're in summertime. So, David, we're talking about this because we want to know how this all impacts our drought conditions.
Right, and you said it. It doesn't affect the summer weather much, but by fall and winter, there's honestly a decent chance this could end our 3 or 4 year drought by that time.
Wow.
And we got some rain before El Nino was officially declared a little earlier today. Radar showing a 6-hour loop with some rain and thunderstorms moving through. That big complex of rain that may have disrupted your midday, early afternoon plans, that's long gone. But what we do still have, not in Austin, but northeast of us, a little complex of decaying rain from Rogers out into Milam County. The outflow boundary that's coming toward Georgetown from this is also sparking a little stray storm near Jarrell. The good news is the severe thunderstorm watch that was in effect has been canceled, so just some rain as opposed to damaging weather. The only damaging weather report we saw was from this, a viewer. Thank you so much to Lori Studebaker for emailing this to report it at KXAN.com. A little roofing damage from some straight line winds in Fredericksburg on her peach stand, unfortunately. The rest of us just saw some beneficial rain. Some missed out, but others 1.75 inches today at Pedernales Falls State Park, about 1.25 inches at LBJ Ranch as well. Coming up, scattered rain continues, but even with that, the hottest weather of the year is right around the corner.
David, thank you so much. We'll come back to you in a few. Austin police need your help finding a man who sexually assaulted a woman in a parking lot. Now, according to police, the man robbed and attacked a woman in the South Park Ranch Apartments parking lot off of South First Street and West Slaughter Lane. The man had a weapon and stole her things. Right now, you're looking at a composite sketch of what this man looks like. Please call call 911 if you have any information.
Crews recovered the body of a man from Lake Travis late this morning. Now, this comes after county officials say a man in his 30s disappeared while swimming near Starnes Island last night. Witnesses said he was in the water, went under, and just never resurfaced. KXAN is working to get more details on that man's identity and what exactly happened to him. And taking a closer look, at least 10 people remain missing after disappearing in Lake Travis, and 61 people have died on the water since 2010. Now, KXAN has looked into the history of the lake and those who worked to recover those bodies. You can find that special project online right now at KXAN.com.
Today, the Supreme Court backed the landmark Voting Rights Act by striking down an Alabama redistricting plan. 5 justices voted to throw out a Republican-drawn congressional districts map there in Alabama that a lower court said discriminated against black voters.
And the Supreme Court's ruling carries special weight here in Texas. Recently, the daughter of President Lyndon Baines Johnson, Lucy, spoke at her father's presidential library here in Austin. Now, she spoke against a 2013 Supreme Court ruling that invalidated a key part of the Voting Rights Act signed into law by her father in 1965. The ruling essentially ended a provision of the act that mandated the way states went about making voting-related changes.
That the decision that was made in Shelby versus Holder has already caused such pain, such isolation, such anger, such hurt, such disappointment. So many people. It has pitted us against each other in ways that are not necessary.
And Johnson says she wants to keep fighting to try to maintain her father's legacy and protect voting rights.
Well, it is no secret. The cost of health care here in the United States is much higher than in other high-income countries.
Washington correspondent Alexandra Limon reports corporate consolidation plays a large role.
I'm concerned. Over the last 2 decades, insurance premiums in the U.S. have gone up over 215%.
Lawmakers want to know how consolidation in the healthcare industry is impacting quality and prices.
To examine whether these practices are hot-wiring our healthcare system to favor mega corporations at the expense of the patients.
Doctors and other experts from around the country told senators that mergers and consolidation of hospitals, pharmacies, and other healthcare facilities is a problem.
About 20% of hospital mergers have lessened competition and led to price increases.
Experts also say that profit-driven private investors are also driving prices up, while at the same time decreasing salaries for nurses and other professionals, and that all of that is making patient outcomes worse.
Those acquisitions are associated with decreased staffing and worse health outcomes, including higher rates of emergency department visits and mortality.
Lawmakers say the problems will require complex solutions.
Comprehensive and carefully tailored policies that prioritize patients from all walks of life.
Dr. Zach Cooper of Yale University says it's critical to hold healthcare conglomerates accountable by implementing systems to track patient outcomes.
What really is going to underpin the functioning of healthcare markets in the U.S. is the ability to measure providers' quality.
In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
A toddler in the hospital after being shot twice by his 6-year-old brother. The reminder for parents to be extra cautious with guns in the home.
And a new group coming together worried about changes at Zilka Park. The upcoming vote kicking the new efforts into high gear.
Every change that is made becomes a gift from their death and means that they did not die in vain.
Plus, the city of Austin becomes the latest to create new safety standards for pets. Investigators in Detroit are figuring out if anyone should face charges after a 6-year-old shot his 1-year-old brother twice on Wednesday. According to authorities, the older brother shot the toddler in the cheek and the shoulder. Police say the child's mother was not home and the father was in the backyard. The toddler is being treated at a hospital.
Austin City Council today changed the city's fire code to provide minimum safety standards for pet boarding facilities. This is all in response to the Ponderosa Pet Resort fire. That tragedy in Georgetown killed 75 pets in September of 2021. None of the facility's staff members were there on site at the time of the fire, and there was no working sprinkler system.
I learned that because our animals are considered property, they are not considered occupants of a building. This means that these facilities are not required to build or operate in a way that preserves life.
And follows Georgetown, Liberty Hill, Cedar Park, and Round Rock in these new requirements.
Well, the early arrival of rain and thunderstorms kept temperatures cooler than normal again today in Austin, reaching only 89. Unfortunately, while some got over an inch of rain, officially we got nothing at Camp Mabry. Your first warning forecast with some summer-like heat is next.
The U.S. Surgeon General is sounding the alarm over what he calls a youth mental health crisis.
As Raquel Martin reports, he's calling on lawmakers to take action now to save lives.
I'm here to speak about what I believe is the defining public health issue of our time, and that is the youth mental health crisis.
The U.S. Surgeon General says Congress must do more to help the surge of young Americans battling loneliness, anxiety, and depression.
Bottom line is our kids can't afford to wait longer.
Dr. Vivek Murthy says to address the crisis, kids need more resources like psychiatrists and more protections online.
Talk to parents all over the country and to kids as well who say that they're exposed to content that's violent and sexual in nature, that they're often bullied and harassed.
Right now, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are pushing legislation to enact age requirements for social media and block websites from collecting data and targeting ads to minors.
This is the #1 threat to our children's health right now.
Kansas Republican Senator Roger Marshall suggested the Surgeon General go a step further and add an electronic warning label for parents.
Are you willing to use your bully pulpit?
No, I do think it would be appropriate.
Last year, Congress approved nearly $1 billion in new funding to expand mental health resources at schools. Now, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy says social media must be the #1 issue Congress takes on.
Unless you get at the root causes of unhappiness and isolation and loneliness, there is almost no amount of money that can make up for that inattention.
In Washington, Raquel Martin.
And going in depth, just last month, Austin Public Health and Integral Care announced a public awareness campaign to get parents to talk to kids about mental health. The campaign is called Ask, Listen, Talk, Repeats. According to APH, suicide deaths among children and youth in the city of Austin rose by 65% in 5 years. 1 in 6 children in the U.S. experience a mental health disorder, and nearly 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses begin by the age of 14. And a reminder, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988.
First warning weather with Chief Meteorologist David Yeomans.
And we are still following the historic air quality hazard on the East Coast this evening. According to a Stanford study, the smoke across parts of the country yesterday made that the worst air quality day on record in the U.S. since 2006 by far. Dangerous smoke from over 160 Canadian wildfires continues to darken the sky, and more than 100 million people in major metro areas like New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, and D.C. are still breathing it. We even have reports now of the Chicago air quality really going downhill tonight. Back here at home, we have only had very, very light amounts, trace amounts of that stuff in our air, not enough to affect our health, but enough to maybe enhance the sun rises and sets just a bit. Right now, boy, it's a beautiful blue sky with a beautiful thunderstorm in the distance, one of the very few that are left in our area this evening on the Liberty Hill Whittlesey Landscape Supply Camp. Most of our area is dry. I think the Austin area is probably done with rain for the evening, but here's that storm that we were just looking at right across the county line from Jarrell. A couple lightning strikes moving from Bell into Williamson County. We could have some heavy rain in Jarrell, but there's no real danger of damaging hail or winds now that the severe weather threat is going down. Those are forming, though, on a nice little outflow boundary, which is coming in with cooler air. 89 in Georgetown, 88 in Austin. This is about the warmest we've been all day. It's only 72, though, in Cameron. And as that boundary hopefully makes it into Austin this evening, our temperatures should drop pretty noticeably. There's that big complex of storms that developed a little early today, as predicted well by our models. This same weather pattern with hot weather but stormy weather at times continues for the next couple days. High pressure still sitting to the west, which puts us on the east side of it. These little disturbances come down during the heat of the day, leading to some scattered showers and storms. This will continue for a couple more days, but starting Sunday into next week, this high pressure comes right overhead, and that's going to squash any chance of rain and send temperatures soaring. Some new high-resolution data coming in, modeling the current picture quite well. We will be watching some areas north and east of Austin for a couple isolated showers and storms through about 7 p.m. After that, it all fades off the radar quickly, and the skies tonight mostly clear and wonderful. It'll be a sunny and hot day tomorrow, hottest of the year. I'll show you that in a minute. A lower chance of a couple isolated blips on the radar tomorrow afternoon. We're going with a 20% chance of a couple heavy downpours. We'll have to watch for some lightning in some areas. On Saturday, a heads up for your weekend plans. It'll be beautiful much of the day, but there's a higher likelihood of storms Saturday evening and night. Here we are on a nice Saturday morning, beautiful and hot weather through the day, but late in the afternoon, another disturbance and some outflow boundaries come in from the north. This could lead to some pretty widespread showers and storms, depending on how this evolves. By Saturday night, storms rocking the Austin metro area, some heavy welcome rain, but also the chance of a couple strong storms. If you're in the right place, we could get another inch or two of rain over the next 48 hours. As we've seen, though, today, some really cash in and some totally miss out. I mentioned a strong storm on Saturday. Right now, a 1 out of 5 threat of some hail or wind damage. There's a higher chance of severe weather to our north up near Waco. Of course, this map will be updated a couple of times, so we'll pass those updates along to you. After that, high temperatures really start to soar, even with a couple late-day storms. These are the hottest temperatures of the year already tomorrow and Saturday. And by next week, we have revised your forecast even warmer. 100 turns into 102 by next Thursday. These are close to records for this early in meteorological summer. And you factor in the humidity on top of that, the National Weather Service saying they may issue heat advisories for dangerous heat index values next week. 69 degrees tonight. We're not going to have any nights like that pretty soon. Calm winds and clear skies. Tomorrow, 96. That's the warmest of the year by a couple degrees. 20% chance of some late day storms. 30% chance of rain at least on Saturday night. But look at the heat. Overnight lows in the middle and even upper 70s this weekend into next week. And daytime highs that are more like August than early June.
Well, many of us have experienced a bumpy flight at some point in our lives. Well, now research is pointing to climate change as the reason behind it. We'll tell you why coming up next.
Well, a group of people worried about possible changes at Zilker Park have joined in their efforts and formed the Save Zilker Park Political Action Committee.
The city's proposed plan could mean 3 new parking garages, a land bridge over Barton Springs Road, a welcome center, an amphitheater, and the new hike and bike trails. And while some say the plan will prevent the beloved park from being neglected, others are concerned about how the massive construction will change the look, use, and feel of the park. The creator of the PAC hopes that their approach will show City Council that there is more public opposition to the plan than they realize.
I have seen very, very little in the way of grassroots support for this plan in Austin. And I think that's something that I hope our City Council comes to take a hard look at and try to understand before they vote on this. You know, does the public want this? And I think pretty clearly from what we've seen from this poll and these meetings and everything else is they really don't.
Now, the poll that he's talking about was a recent public policy poll that showed 76% of Austinites like Zilker Park just the way it is. City Council is set to vote on this proposal on July 20th.
If you've noticed bumpier flights over the years, new research suggests that you may not be imagining it. A new study reveals global warming is creating worse airplane turbulence. Clear air turbulence has increased by 55% over the last 50 years or so. And increases in greenhouse gas emissions can warm the atmosphere and cause an increase in wind shear, a change in wind speed and direction over a short distance, causing that bumpier ride. Now, while that can all be unsettling, an atmospheric sciences professor says air travel is still very safe.
There are many other reasons to reduce our carbon emissions, like increased rainfall and droughts and heat waves. So if you ask me to list 5 top things that you worry about climate change, turbulence wouldn't be in the top 5. But it is an interesting effect.
And he says that climate change will also change wind speeds, and that impacts how long it takes you to fly somewhere.
Well, for the first time in 14 months, Austin's airport has failed to set a new monthly record. Today, AUS reported a total of 1.8 million passengers passed through the capital city. That's down about 1% compared to last April. But despite the lower numbers, the month is still ranking as the 8th busiest of all time. So far this year, more than 6.7 million passengers have flown out of the airport.
Thanks for listening to KXAN News Nightly. You can also listen to KXAN News Today every morning for more in-depth coverage of what matters most to you.